So today we're going to dig into a really core spiritual question. It's this: are we working for God or are we actually living with Him? We're going to break down how to shift from that feeling of striving and just sheer exhaustion to a restful, life-giving relationship. Let's dive in.
I mean, seriously, have you ever felt that? That feeling of being totally spiritually burnt out? Like your faith is just one more thing on your to-do list that you have to perform, you have to get right. It's such a common feeling, and you know what? It usually points to a fundamental misunderstanding of what our relationship with God is even supposed to be about.
You know, a great way to think about this feeling of exhaustion is to picture a spiritual treadmill. It's just this constant, draining effort of running and running and running, but not actually going anywhere. You're trying so hard to earn something that was always meant to be a free gift. And it forces us to ask that big question: is my faith about my performance, or is it about His presence?
Here's what happens. When we lose sight of that simple communion with God, our human nature doesn't just sit back and relax. Nope. It defaults to what you could call performance-based substitutes. We start replacing that genuine relationship with all these little strategies we think are going to give us control, or security, or maybe just some sense of value.
So, to really get our heads around this, we're going to look at 4 common but deeply flawed postures we can take in our spiritual lives. Think of this kind of like a diagnosis. As we go through them, just see if you recognize yourself in any of these ways we tend to strive.
All right, first up is what's called life under God. In this posture, God is basically a cosmic rule giver and a judge. The whole point of life is to follow the rules, do the right rituals, be a good moral person, all in this effort to appease God and hopefully keep disaster away. It's a life that's really governed by the fear of getting it wrong.
Okay, next we have life over God. Now, this one's a bit more sophisticated. Here, the goal isn't just to follow rules, it's to gain control by mastering a set of principles. The Bible becomes less of a story about a person and more of a how-to manual for a successful life. We end up replacing a relationship with God for a relationship with biblical principles, trying to engineer the outcomes we want.
Then there's life from God, which is, well, it's a purely transactional posture. Here, God's value is all about His usefulness to us. The main question is always, what have you done for me lately? The source material has this brilliant comparison to the prodigal son, who didn't actually want his father, did he? He just wanted his father's stuff. Ouch.
And finally, we have the most subtle one of all, life for God. This is where we put God's mission ahead of God Himself. We start to find our worth and our value in what we achieve for Him. The work, the ministry, the cause, it becomes an idol. And we subtly, maybe without even realizing it, dethrone God by replacing Him with our activity.
So, if those are the flawed postures, if those are the traps we fall into, what's the alternative? This brings us to this huge pivot point in the entire biblical story, the divine invitation to stop all that striving and start living in a totally different way. And this verse from John 15, it just captures the invitation so perfectly. It's not a command to do more. It's an invitation to be more, to connect, to remain, to dwell. The key word that changes everything is abide. Abiding leads to communion. And what's really fascinating about this definition is the language it uses: intentional, reciprocal presence. See, it's not a one-way street of us performing for God. It's a two-way relationship, a simply being with each other, a relationship that was made possible, that was restored through Christ. I mean, this really gets to the very heart of it all. The foundation of a healthy spiritual life isn't your performance, it's His presence. It's not about trying harder, it's about learning to just dwell, to rest, and to abide in a relationship that's already been secured for you. And this brings us to that fifth and final posture, life with God. This is the goal. This is where we want to live. This posture understands that relationship isn't just a part of the spiritual life. It's the entire point. It's the belief that the whole cosmos is built on the foundation of relationship, the relationship within the Trinity of Father, Son, and Spirit. Okay, so what does this shift from striving to abiding actually look like in real life? How do we get off that spiritual treadmill for good?
This slide just lays it out so perfectly. Striving is all about my effort, my control, and using God as a means to some other end. It's constantly driven by that nagging question, what must I do? But abiding, it just flips the whole thing on its head. It's all about connection, about seeing God as the goal Himself, resting in that relationship, and asking a completely different question. How can I just be present?
To make this even clearer, the source gives us these two beautiful analogies from the natural world. Think about a river. It doesn't struggle to flow, does it? Its power just comes from being constantly connected to its source. Or a branch on a vine. It doesn't perform to get sap. It just exists in this constant union, drawing all its life from the vine. Our spiritual vitality works the exact same way. It flows from connection, not from striving.
So why is this so hard? I mean, if abiding is so much better, why do we constantly default back to performance? The source suggests it really boils down to two things: a deep-seated fear and an insatiable hunger for control. We want to manage our own lives. We want to determine our own value by what we can achieve. We find it incredibly, profoundly hard to just receive.
So let's bring this all home with a really practical invitation. How do we actually make this shift? From performance to presence, from striving to a life with God.
You know, the breathtaking solution of the gospel is this. God's answer to all our striving wasn't another list of rules or a better mission to accomplish. His answer was Himself. He came to be with us, restoring that simple, walking-in-the-garden relationship that we were designed for all along.
So here's the challenge. If you recognized yourself in that life over God posture, the invitation is to set aside the manual for a little while and just seek the person. If you're caught up in life for God, the invitation is to intentionally step away from all the activity, all the busyness, and just devote time to being with Him. And really, for all of us, the invitation is to stop trying to earn what is already freely yours.
And that's the ultimate takeaway, isn't it? What if we really, truly believed this? That the creator of the universe isn't looking for your perfect performance, but is simply and profoundly longing for your presence. That, right there, is the divine posture of life with God.